The mayor's not here tonight, so we're going to start our 7 o'clock information. If anyone's here for the Commission on the City Plan, that meeting's across the way in 335, so you might be at the wrong place. So, Mr. Callis? Or Leanne Gomes, I'm sorry. Ms. Gomes, thank you.
Yes, he will be up shortly. I always make him make me go first. So,
okay. I always picked it because he was staring at me, so I assumed he was trying to...
So thank you for this opportunity to speak to you again about the opioid epidemic in Norwich and the country. I want to just kind of give a background, some background information, especially for our new council people, and I apologize to people that have heard this before, but Norwich has an inordinarily high amount of deaths from this epidemic. We've had a recent conversation with our chief of police and with Pat McCormick from the Uncas Health Department to try to ascertain why we are so high. I think we're ranked number 3rd in the state of Connecticut with overdose deaths. There's some theories that we have. We know that there's a direct drug line from Hartford to Norwich, and our police department and state police are working hard to curtail those things. We think there may be some other reasons for Norwich, but we're going to be having a community conversation shortly so that we can ask families who are affected and others what they think some of the reasons why are. Just to give you some numbers, for this year, we have had 19 overdose deaths. We are on track to double the amount of deaths we had last year. So that means that we are expecting to have 38 residents of Norwich die from overdoses this year. In 2016, we had 23 people die. In 2015, we had 14 people die. Between 2012 and 2017, we've had 112 people in Norwich, Connecticut, 40,000 population die from this epidemic. So what have we done? What is your city doing to address this? We formed a task force. We had done that quite a few years ago, and we incorporated our existing prevention council into that task force. And our task force is made up of great people from great agencies like Jill Corbin from St. Vincent de Paul's Place, American Ambulance, the Uncas Health District, our community police, a lot of social service agencies like Reliance House, and our partners at Community Speaks Out, who really are kind of leading the charge on this epidemic. Then we applied for a grant from Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, which we were awarded. It's called the Partnerships for Success Grant. Norwich gets $138,000 a year for 3 to 4 years, we're not sure. And those funds allow us to hire a coordinator to address this issue and underage drinking and prescription misuse. And we were able to hire her, that's Angela Duhame, and a peer advocate to work specifically with youth, someone that can relate to the youth, and that's Tiana Powell. Unfortunately, Angela is leaving us to work on her doctorate, so you can see that we've advertised to fill that position. This is 100% grant funded. No city dollars go towards this endeavor. So that's really a benefit to our community. Other things that they're working on right now is that they're going to map out where the overdose are happening. We're doing a GIS thing to see if it's certain neighborhoods, certain communities. They've given several different workshops and educational forums to the community on all 3 of those things, the opioid epidemic, underage drinking, and prescription drug use. We are doing surveys with youth in our community to see where their heads are at on this issue. We've had billboards, I don't know if you saw by American Ambulance coming down. And the best thing that we've done is develop a website called Norwich Unhooked, and I urge you to go on that website and see. That is a direct result of Angela and her team and the work that we're doing under this Partnerships for Success grant. On that website, you can find out about treatment beds, and you can find out about other resources and programs and drug-assisted detox, and there's a lot of personal stories on that website from people in our community that are really moving and poignant. So those are some of the things that we're doing. I think as your Human Services Director, I'm so proud of the work that our whole department is doing to address this. We're looking at everybody from youth to seniors, cross-cuts every socioeconomic and income level, and it's affecting everybody. Angela will come up now and talk about this project, and just so that you know, there's many people in our audience tonight who have lost loved ones due to this epidemic.
Thank you.
Leanne,
Oh.
I could just ask one question?
Go right ahead.
The initiatives that you talked about seem like they're all pointed towards the prevention side.
Yes.
I'm wondering, where are we regionally on the treatment side?
Well, we are involved in those conversations too. One of our subcommittees on our task force is a legislative committee that is looking at that. I feel personally, I think a lot of people would agree that treatment beds have shrunk. One of the things that our committee did right away was get an email list out to all of our friends so people would know where the treatment beds are right away on a daily basis, real time information on that. We're hearing that drug-assisted treatment is the best way to go. So some of our partners in the community, United Community Services and Catholic Charities was dabbling that in Generations, and we've worked with them to offer those kinds of treatments to people in our community too. That seems to be the most helpful to people. But we are looking at treatment, but no doubt about it, we feel that prevention is the area that we have to spend the most amount of time on. We have to stop new people from dabbling in heavy-duty opioid medications if they can avoid it. We have to talk to providers about their prescribing those drugs to people. We have to make sure that our youth know the dangers and families know the dangers. I mean, if your kid is going to get their wisdom teeth pulled, like my 23-year-old was, ask for Tylenol 800. Don't let them take an opioid. They can suffer through a little pain for a little while. So we have to address the prevention, and we think that's the most important.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. And again, thank you for having us here tonight. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for allowing this quilt to be seen. Thank you for your kind words through your proclamation. I wish Mayor Nystrom was here, because I would also like to thank his secretary, Bonnie Kuprak. She was very instrumental in assisting us in bringing the quilt here tonight. And this quilt has become, for me, I think, a far more important object than I ever imagined. I think you all know that the one thing that Norwich does exceedingly well is we gather around and we help each other. We know how to play with each other. We will work with other agencies. We will work with whoever is necessary to get whatever is required done. And this is what we do around this crisis. This is what we do around any issue that confronts us in human services and in youth and family services. The work that has brought us to this completed unit comes from so many people spending so much time. We've been working on the issue of substance abuse for several years with our Norwich Prevention Council. We seek grants primarily through CERAC, who's represented here by Ray Allen. If you all know the work of CERAC, they do phenomenal work in providing a clearinghouse of information and of grant opportunities. So they pull money from the state and through federal governments and siphon it down to the agencies that are doing the work at the grassroots. They are helping our community at the most basic level by providing us funds that we apply to. It's a very competitive bid to provide services that don't tax the taxpayers of an already distressed municipality like Norwich. So we're able to bring these services from tax dollars and foundation dollars that don't cost our taxpayers. And that's the bulk of our resources that we bring in. We're very mindful of doing that. At one of these CERAC meetings, I had heard about a program, and I keep looking around and I'm stalling a little bit, because the originator of the quilt idea, his name is Daryl McGraw, and he is the Director of Office and Recovery Community Affairs, long titles at the state. And it was his hope and belief to begin a process where we begin to humanize loss, where we begin to see the process that we are losing. It's not numbers, they're not statistics, they're faces and their lives of people whose parents and grandparents and loved ones loved them enough to come and to put their love into a quilt square. And I don't know about you, but my grandmother was a quilter and family members were, and anybody who knows a quilter knows that they're made of nothing but love. So when Daryl came up with this idea to give a chance to express love, we just had to take that. We deal with the nitty-gritty and the hard work of prevention, of treatment. I'm a therapist. I have my therapist, Erin Hagen, who works, and we deal with the hard facts of people's lives every day. We work prevention. We try to educate parents in this community. We educate kids in this community. We go into the schools. We're working now to educate all as a result, really, of this. It amazes me. If you look at this quilt, we're dealing with very young people who are almost all athletes, who had good grades, and they were doing well in life. And at some point, because I could guarantee you that no addict, no one who has an addiction, ever picks up the first pill or the first bottle and says, by gun, I'm going to become an addict. Everybody walks, stumbles, falls into addiction. And then it's hard to get out of the hole. And I know we've all had experiences with this. We've seen this in our lives. And sometimes we've seen this in our families. So we wanted a place where we could gather, no, Daryl, where we can gather family members, loved ones together, and they could heal. Because we know this, a death through addiction, a death through substance abuse, much like a death through some form, some other illnesses, oftentimes they come with a stigma attached. And people are so uncomfortable about talking about this manner of death, a suicide death, or a heroin death, or a substance abuse death, that people learn very quickly to keep it inside. And once it's inside, it becomes a corrosive thing. So we called Jean Stark, and she made us turkey, and she made us stuffing, and she made us mashed potatoes, and we called the Wagner women, Miriam, and Caitlin, and Bonnie Yakovich from St. Vincent de Paul's Soup Kitchen, who came with sewing machines and patterns and squares and thread and embroidery, and we put out the word through the airwaves, and people came. That evening, we had 20 families come, and we ate together, and we shared together with the help of many people who sit on our coalition, with the help of the Heroin Task Force and of Norwich Prevention Council, all of our regional schools, our public schools, Uncas Health District, and getting the word out and providing other forms of support for that evening. Hospice bereavement program came and finally heard our pleas that we needed a special bereavement program because of the stigma attached to this loss. But that evening, I don't think I'm being schmaltzy by saying that we did become a family. We sat, all of us, and gathered around tables, and we broke bread, and we looked at pictures, and we heard stories of childhood, and we heard thoughts of hope and promise that all of the people who made these squares had for all of the people who are not here to fulfill those promises. And very honestly, I thought my heart was going to break that night. There were so many beautiful lives through this epidemic that will never live to fruition, that for whatever reason took a wrong turn. And to me that says that as adults, we are not doing good enough. As adults, and I think that's really all of us in this room, except for these beautiful young kids back here, we need to do everything for them. So that's my plea, and that's our pledge, and that's my gratitude for this body, for creating a place where we can do this work, and for honoring the people who are on this quilt and the people who made this quilt. Several gifts, but not not good enough. When I learned through this, and we could introduce you, we want to leave some time afterwards so you can meet our beloved. Chase and Christopher's parents, who are on this quilt, and Brett and Randy's parents lost 2 of their sons apiece to this present crisis. Jordan, who's there, his father Alan, who along with Lisa Johns, are now running and working actively on a group, a self-help group called Community Speaks Out. They're helping discover solutions to this problem. Alan and Lisa are also, they've been certified to be inspectors of group homes and 3-quarter houses to make sure that they're providing quality services, that they're registered to a point where they're able and deemed fit, and we could feel comfortable setting our children there without fear that they will relapse in these homes. The list goes on and on. I think that's all I have to say. I'm sorry, I kind of lost my place here. Again, we'd like to thank you for having us here this evening. We'd like to leave some time if you would like to come and look at the quilt. We could introduce you to some people. If any parents are comfortable to step forward with you to maybe have a talk with you and show them. I don't know how much time you guys have or how much time we have, but you could step down and...
Mayor?
Yes.
And I'll try not to get too emotional. First of all, I would love to give my sincere condolences to all of those of you who have lost a loved one to this disease. And let there be no doubt in your mind, it is a disease. Addiction is like cancer. It's like alcoholism. It's like diabetes. But it has a social stigma. But this disease touches everyone. Doctors, lawyers, police officers, firefighters, senior citizens. It can start as easily with a hip replacement or a sports injury. A doctor who decides that writing a prescription for 120 oxycodone is perfectly legitimate. But we need to stand up and we need to speak out. We need to look out for one another. I recently found out that a nephew of mine has become a part of this community. It was a shock. It was a shock, but it happens to everybody, and no parent should ever have to bury a child. I don't care how old they are. It doesn't matter if they're 15 or they're 55. So I would ask, I would implore all of you, have those difficult discussions. Talk to your children, educate them, harass them, because until such time as we do, it's only going to get worse. And I had the opportunity at a public safety meeting last week to ask a gentleman from American Ambulance about the statistics. And I was appalled. This is a national health issue. And we need to come together to do this. So as a person, as a mom, as an aunt, as a grandma, as a senior citizen, whatever I can do personally, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but whatever I can do to help, please, you know where to get me. All
They'll be
right?
calling.
Thank you.
Thank you. What? Oh, Daryl, come on up, man.
While Daryl's coming up, I had the pleasure of meeting Daryl and a lot of the people here when I attended the presentation of this quilt at the Senior Center. And I just want to say how moving it was and how honored I was to hear some of the stories of the brave people that come together and how important this work is. I've seen Norwich Unhooked. I've been on the site, and as a person who works in healthcare delivery reform, this is near and dear to my heart, and we shouldn't forget that, and we'll support you in whatever you need.
Thank you. We need it.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
How are you? I'm Daryl McGraw. I'm the Director of the Office of Recovery Community Affairs for the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. And I've been a part of this quilt project for almost going on a year now, 2 years, maybe a little year and a half. And, you know, I want to thank Norwich for being, having, there's a lot of towns that are around that say that we don't have a problem with the opioids, and it's sad because, it's everywhere. Our country has been affected by the opioid crisis. And for Norwich to be willing to step forward and say, we have this issue, and bringing this awareness to our people and our citizens to let them know. I'm happily a new Norwich resident recently. I moved to Norwich 2 years now, and I love the town and love spreading the word, and had an opportunity to meet with Stephanie as well and be a part of this process, but we still have a lot of work to do. So I came in late because I didn't know where you were, and then I seen this was so professional. I was like, God, I wasn't sure if I was in the right place, but I heard the conversation, and I was happy to be a part of it. So anything that that I can do from the department, the commissioner, our commissioner Miriam Delphin-Rittman is fully behind this this work that we're doing, spreading this advocacy and spreading the word about the opioid crisis as well. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this to our attention. Not that we weren't aware of this. As you know, what I did in my previous career with the city, 12 years in the drug prevention program. So I just want to echo my two older women's statements that obviously if there's anything you need, prevention has been close to me. That's one of the things I did for 12 years with the Norwich Police Department was, pound the drum on prevention, keeping kids from being involved in drugs. So please, anything, you know how to get in touch with me as well. Call. I'm here every day, so please reach out to me and let me know what I can do to help you with anything. So please, but thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you as well.
Great idea.
Thank you.
It was his idea.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to hear from a
Mayor.
Please,
Karen?
the microphone is yours.
I want to introduce you to my son. My son, Mike. Beautiful son. Intelligent, athletic. In 36 days, it'll be 2 years that I came home and found him dead. I'm grateful for this opportunity to come to ask for help. My son and I were very close, and he used to say, "Mom, I can't stay clean in Norwich." So I wonder, why can't you stay clean in Norwich? He did well when he went to Florida for a while. Then he came back. Couldn't do well in Norwich. So I have some questions, and I'm assuming that you guys are the people who know the people that can answer some of these questions, because I don't know what else to do. I've still not accepted that he's not here with me. I'm working on it, but I feel like I have a duty to find out what we can do to move forward and make change. So I have some questions. The kind of questions for the Norwich Police. What are they doing? I want to know what they're doing. Are they looking for the drug dealers? Are they chasing every lead? When my son died, they came in and said, "This is a crime scene," pushed me away, kept me away from him, kept me away from everything, wouldn't allow my husband to come with me to the hospital because it was a crime scene. I never received anything from the Norwich Police Department. Not a call, not an explanation, no follow-up, Nothing. I needed some closure. I wanted to know what they found out. If it was a crime scene and there was a death, what was done? Nothing was said. And it's 2 years and 36 days. At one point, we battled together, Mike and I, for 10 years. At one point, I brought him to Stonington Institute. In order for him to be accepted there, he had to be dirty. Well, he got himself too dirty. When we arrived, he was too high. We started to fill out the forms. He was easy to get there because he was so high. We started to fill out the forms, and I was really scared because he kept sort of dozing off as he was writing. And I went in and I said to the lady, I'm really concerned. She came out and she said, yes, he's too high. You need to take him home. I said, I need to take him home? Why? Well, he's too high. We don't have the facilities for that here. You'll have to bring him back tomorrow. Okay. Well, guess what happened tomorrow? It took me hours to get him in the car. He was not willing to go because he wasn't willing. He wasn't high. We fought. I had to lock him in the car. He threatened to jump out of the doors. When we got in the parking lot, I had to take baby steps. He wouldn't leave the car. He said, I'm going to walk down the road. There need to be changes at these facilities. Talking about it isn't enough. We need to do something. Because as you say, no one is safe. No one. The doctors who over-medicate, even the Suboxone. They over-medicate tons of Suboxone, which gets sold on the streets. My son told me that his friend was right down the road. Well, no one was arrested, certainly that I found out about. My son's dead. Since then, I think I've heard of cases where people are brought up on charges when there's been a death, but his death certificate came back. He had 2 kinds of fentanyl, no heroin listed, just 2 kinds of fentanyl, 180 pounds, solid muscle, athlete, worked out every day. I'm not saying he wasn't wrong. He was wrong. One last time, but he was planning to go back to Florida in 4 days because that was the only place he thought he could be okay. He said, nobody can stay sober in Norwich, Mom. There's too many people. There's too many people selling dope. So we can talk about it, we can celebrate their lives, but we have to do more than that. He was at Lebanon Pines. He finally listened to his mama. I said, you need to find where you're going to go. You need to go to this particular place so that you can continue your job. He finally listened, talked to his counselor, developed a relationship for the first time. 2 weeks before he was scheduled to leave, they said to him, sorry, Mike, but we're taking people in from the court system, from prison. So you've lost your spot at Liberty House. We are now taking people in from the jail that need a place to stay. I don't get that. He was slotted. He made sure he had a place to go. And 2 weeks before he was released, he called me and said, Mom, crying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, that can't be so, Mike. It's not right. It can't be possible. He said, Mom, I'm telling you the truth. They just came to me and told me I can't go there now. They're going to send me way up in Bridgeport or someplace. I didn't believe him. He said, why don't you believe me? Well, there were a lot of reasons not to believe him because you know what happens. Addicts don't always tell the truth. So I went in. Oh, it was true. It was very true. I'm sorry, but I have to believe there's money reasons. I've been in public education for 20 years. I've worked with thousands of young people, from high school down to 3rd grade. And unfortunately, even in public school systems, it seems like our problems come down to money. But I want to know why. I want to know why our sick kids that are in facilities like Lebanon Pines I'm just about done. I want to know why Lebanon Pines can suddenly change the plans at the last minute to take in kids from the prison system or people. So I guess I don't have any more time to speak, which is fine. But I need answers. And my son needs answers. Thank you for listening to me. I apologize if I took too long.
Ma'am, could I have your name again, please?
Kathy Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Angela.
I have a question. Would it be possible to suspend the meeting for, say, 15 minutes to give the families a chance to talk to the council members away from the podium, rather than have them sit through a long meeting? I mean, there are other family members who I personally believe should have the right to tell us their story. So that would be, I don't know if it takes a motion or if we can just suspend the meeting for 10, 15 minutes.
I have no objection to that, but I think we need to begin the meeting in order to then make a motion to
Okay.
suspend.
All right.
So if we could all please rise. Alderwoman Burnham will lead us in prayer.
No, delusion.
Delucia prayer, I'm sorry.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen.
Alderwoman Burnham, please.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I ask for a motion to suspend, Chief Daley, good evening. Not to put you on the spot, but I would ask that you please reach out to the young woman who spoke with us this evening, please. Patrick is our Chief of Police. Take a motion to suspend.
I make a
Alderman
motion to
Gilbert.
suspend the rules.
Second, Alderman Nash. All those in favor? Unanimous for 15 minutes?
Please.
like back on the table is the concept of scaling back state employees.
Council will reconvene. Next on the agenda is a citizen comment. We have a sign-up sheet. Mr. Rodney Bowie.
Good evening. Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt. Several of you people have already heard this little speech of mine, and it involves the finances of this city. I had occasion to go back through your last budget, and I noted that you had a $5 million debt service this year. We are paying interest on $50 million at this present time in our budget. So that is the wrong way to run a business. I've watched this for years and years and years. In fact, about 45 years I've been doing this. Nothing's changed. Every year you make a budget, and then in comes $800,000. Oh, we forgot we're going to do this. $800,000 for that. $4.5 million for trucks this year. That's no way to run a business. I can't run my household like that, and I have a business also. Several of you know that I run apartment houses. Now, you've got things that should have been in our budget this year. Firefighting equipment, things like that should have been in the budget, and not tacked on a $4 or $5 million at the end of the budget, or $800,000 down the road. You can't make a budget and then spend 10% more than what you take in. Not year over year over year. We've gone, when I first started out, it was around 20-some million, and now we're up to 50. So let's go for 60 or 70. That's where we're headed, and I probably won't be around here to see it, but my kids are already griping about their taxes being as high as they are. We did not get a tax, not when we stack on $5 million more onto our budget that we had in a slush fund. I've been doing this finance since I was forever. They didn't call me Bowie the bondsman on board a ship for anything. Most people call you a loan shark, but the guys call me a bondsman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chuck Evans.
Chuck Evans, 49 Butternut Drive, Norwich, Connecticut. First, I'd like to say congratulations to all the new faces up here on the board, and Mayor Nystrom, congratulations. Haven't seen you in a while. My topic tonight is also regarding some money. It's suggestions to the City of Norwich how we might curtail some of the future spending by thinking in advance. The City of Norwich, with its property tax rate of approximately 40 mil, is located within the state, which also has a state income tax, thus doubling the tax burden on the people of Norwich. Now, is my view, is a time to limit open-ended liability for the City of Norwich. I pay a lot of taxes compared to the services I receive, so the focus here tonight will be about saving money for Norwich. And once again, the first example I would speak of, the first, is Chelsea Gardens. Been 25 years since its origination, and they have provided nothing but damage to the park and waste of more than $250,000 taxpayer dollars. Where is the oversight of the town leaders? Has anyone done audit of their funds and resources for viability? Are they capable of completion? And if not, then why has this lease not been recalled by the city? Or will it continue because it has been intentionally obscured from scrutiny of town council? 25 years of stagnation and deceit, destruction of the forest, and town council has yet to seek more information. Hopefully, they will give you some in the future. Hopefully, you will seek some. Chelsea Gardens has many occasions refused to provide financial information to city officials despite numerous requests. If any of the town council is becoming tired of my speaking of Chelsea Gardens and Mohegan Park, rest assured, I am tiring also of speaking about it. Second topic, forefront in my mind, is the old Reed and Hughes building. I've heard a lot of people speak about Reed and Hughes in favor of save it, save it, save it. After the recent, bulletin publication as far as the purchasers needing to reevaluate funding, I mean, this is a horse the City of Norwich should jump off right now. Save what you can, jump off. Get away from that thing, because it's only going to knock you down. The third example I address tonight is that CMEEC and NPU and the audacity of some of the spouses complaining they can't travel without family coming along too. After I quit laughing, I had a thought. Maybe they should try and hire people with more than a fourth grade proficiency here, and they won't need their mama with them. If you need your family and significant other with you, then maybe you should just stay home. These are three examples where I believe the council or other representatives should hold stronger positions. All three of these situations still exist because no one took a firm stand previously. All have easy answers. Combined, these examples have cost the city of Norwich and its taxpayers millions already. That is not an exaggeration, that is a factual figure. You have to curtail future spending. The one answer that no one has given yet no one has given yet which would protect the citizens of Norwich from future financial and resources loss is the same in all cases. No, no, and no.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Please. Yes, Mr. Kraft. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Good evening, David Crabb, Greenville. My two-part handout in part one
Excuse
is
me,
a
sir.
copy from Ralph.
Mr. Crab, could you please state your address for the record?
David Crabb, Greenville,
Street address, please?
47 Prospect.
Thank you.
My two-part handout, the first part is a copy from Ralph Nader's Public Citizen Foundation. The second part is a comparison between the era of real news from about 20 years ago and what President Trump labels fake news today. A comparison. Now, substance abuse of opioids has mushroomed since Y2K and rates more attention than the Day of Remembrance. Yesterday was a national holiday to remember Martin Luther King Jr. Next week, the birthday of Elvis will be remembered by radio stations playing his records and TV that are already broadcasting his movies. Elvis should be the poster child for prescription abuse. His autopsy revealed 29 prescription drugs. And 20 years before that, his physician's license was suspended because the regulators discovered that 10,000 prescriptions were written for Elvis in 1 year. This only interrupted Elvis' dependence for 4 months because he was soon back on the physician was soon back on the payroll. When Elvis died, he was like 1/3 of Americans with problem credit, the most in U.S. history that are underwater. Elvis' estate was stripped by the creditors. His survivors had to transform Graceland into a museum for any claim to his career accomplishments. The cost to make anyone so headstrong to think they can enlist in the drug dealer's imaginary world of never-ending superiority because of unfunded mandates are just another fact of life. Elvis lasted more than 20 years. How long will Norwich, when 1/3 of Americans, the most in U.S. history, are underwater? 46% have only $200,000 freeboard between being underwater now. Think about it. The budget is at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment?
Rob Dembski, 36 River Avenue, Norwich. Just bouncing off a comment of another citizen earlier, I think that everybody would agree it would be better if previous councils had adequately budgeted for safety equipment needed by the town. Since that didn't happen, we have a bond, and it's going to be spent appropriately and wisely. And I would expect that the current council, and hopefully subsequent ones, Republican and Democrat, will continue to look forward and plan for appropriately funding the replacement of this capital equipment that can be fairly accurately planned for. It has a pretty well-determined lifespan, and the position that this council and the city has been put in by previous councils is appalling. So I would just ask that everybody up here remember that moving forward and do your part not to put the city into this position again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Anyone else under citizen comment? Seeing no one else, I declare citizen comment closed, and thank you all for your concerns.
Proclamation, Day of Remembrance.
Angelo, you and family members like to join us? Anyone on the council want to join us, please feel free. This is an official proclamation from the city. Whereas the city of Norwich is being disproportionately impacted by substance abuse epidemic, and the council of the city of Norwich would like to express its support and to honor both those who have lost someone and those lost from the substance use epidemic. And whereas we support those who are battling addiction, we honor and pledge our continuing support to those within the city, state, and nonprofit agencies in the front line of fighting this epidemic. And whereas on November 30th, 2017, a handmade quilt was unveiled honoring and remembering the lives of local people who have been lost to substance abuse. And whereas the quilt has 36 personalized squares sewn together by surviving family members during an evening of healing in the community. And whereas we commend the Norwich Youth and Family Services for their dedication to the people of Norwich, the bereaved families, and we recognize their efforts to address the substance abuse epidemic by developing the Heroin Task Force and implementing the Partnerships for Success grant. Now therefore I, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom, Norwich City Council President Pro Tem William Nash, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the City of Norwich, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, January 16th, 2018 as a day of remembrance in the City of Norwich, dated the 16th day of January. And thank you for all that you do.
City Manager's Report.
Thank you. This is the City Manager's Report for January 16th, 2018. I held interviews with the Harbor Management Commission. I met with staff regarding the $3.2 million bond approved by the voters in November 2017 to purchase 5 fire apparatus and radio equipment. The $3.2 million of fire bond will pay for the volunteers' vehicles as follows: an engine tanker for East Great Plains, a rescue pumper and squad vehicle for Taffville, and pumper trucks for Yantic and Laurel Hill. The 5 new trucks will be replacing 6 vehicles to be removed from service. I attended a meeting at the Emergency Operations Center on January 3rd to prepare for the snowstorm, which was forecasted for the 4th of January. Willimantic Waste delayed trash collection for another day, and the media was notified. Due to the timing of the storm and the amount of snow predicted, the City Hall was closed on Thursday, January 4th, while essential employees were stationed at the EOC. The parking ban went into effect and seat bus service was temporarily suspended. No power outages occurred, but there was a damaged water main that disrupted service for approximately 120 customers in the East Great Plain area. The EOC was deactivated at 6 p.m. on Thursday. I would like to thank Emergency Operations Director Ken Scanaderato, which I pronounce his name wrong all the time. I really butchered that one tonight. That's why I call him Chief Scan. And NPU Assistant General Manager Chris Riley, and staff that operated the EOC, and staff from NPU, Norwich Public Works, Norwich Police, and Norwich Fire Departments that kept our streets clean and safe during and after the storm. I met with Barb Mills from NCDC on January 9th for a monthly update. My assistant and I met with Jim O'Shea of Achievement Unlimited of Connecticut, our facilitator for the special meeting of the council on January 20th to discuss a work plan for the day and what would be expected from him. I attended the Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration at Norwich Free Academy on January 12th, along with Bill Nash, President Pro Tem, who presented proclamations at the event. The EOC was not activated for January 12th and 13th rainstorm event. Although there was much rain, no ice blockage on the river impeded river flows, and no area of flooding occurred. That's the completion of my report for this evening.
Yes, Alderwoman Philbrook.
What is the status of the snow removal budget?
I don't know it exactly. I don't know if Josh knows off the top of his head at this point.
I don't know off the top of my head. I know it is trending much higher than last year. We typically look at the overtime budgets at the end of February when the bulk of the snow removal activities are completed. It's to give everyone a good idea of how that's trending.
Go ahead.
No disrespect, but wouldn't it be more prudent to know how much is in there so you know how much you have to spend? I mean, if we've expended 75% of the budget, I would rather know that now than in February.
Right. I mean, in the budget reports that we distributed today, you can see line by line detail of how much, for example, in the street maintenance budget, what's been spent so far on materials and supplies, which is primarily salt, and what's been spent in overtime, which is primarily for snow removal. But we track these things continuously, and as concerns arise, John and I will be talking with Ryan Thompson.
Anyone else have questions of the city manager or Josh while he's here? Thank you very much.
Citizen comment on resolutions?
There are two people that have signed up. First person, I believe it is Kathy Branch. Okay. Ron Phillips. Would anyone else like to speak on the resolutions before us? Yes, Mr. Kratz.
David Krebs, 47 Prospect. I'll speak to resolution number 1. This is a eye-opening, welcome change to previous procedures. This is so remarkable in this city that it requires, let's say, some form of continuation. All I can think of is the rules of procedure, because this practice needs to be continued if you're going to get your costs under control. In fact, with this procedure for this particular ordinance, I see a chance that you could dip into the 2014 or 2015 budget, when the previous Democratic administration raised a super fund that is now resting in the undesignated fund balance and is adequate to purchase these equipments for cash, that you should tackle that as a cash expenditure in this budget and on this particular resolution to show your intentions are for the good of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment on the resolutions? Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Again, anyone likes to address the council under citizen comment on resolutions?
Thank you, Mayor. Brian Koblar, 16 Hobart Avenue. Just stopping in briefly to give my full support for the rewrite that was done as a consideration for you folks looking at the CMEC position. It does bring into account comments that were brought up by both citizens and what would now become some of you sitting before us today, insofar as accountability. That is one thing that the city has always ended up looking to be able to showcase, that we do want accountability in the different actions that we take in the way that the taxpayers are represented, especially as all of you are seated there now. The rewrite that I'm seeing goes a long distance in bringing that to fruition. So I'm asking and hoping for all of your support in bringing that to pass tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Seeing no one else on the third time, I would then declare citizen comment closed. And again, thank you for sharing your information and concerns.
Resolution number 1, relative to establishment of a procurement process for certain apparatus purchased authorized in Ordinance 1755.
Entertain a motion to bring it forward. President Pro Tem Nash, second. Alderwoman Burnham. Is there discussion? Alderman Nash.
I'd just like to address some comments made at the general citizen comments regarding the bond. It's not a 4 or 5 million, it's a 3.2. And as a council person who sat here in previous councils and watched monies put aside to purchase items and trucks go away every budget because we had to save money and we couldn't afford it. This is not in any shape, fashion, or form the proper way to purchase these many pieces of equipment. However, we are at a position that I don't ever remember being in as I've sat here or served the city prior to my time as a council person. So this was the only way to bring our fleet up to satisfactory condition so these guys can continue fighting fires and protecting lives. I will be introducing an ordinance in the future with the help of my Public Safety Committee, the city manager, the mayor, and corporate council to address this issue so we will not have to ever do this again. But also, this resolution is designed so that, A, we don't have to spend all 3.2 million. The 3.2 million was the maximum amount that we bonded for, but it was never intended to be spent all of it. So I'm hoping with the oversight that we're putting in here, with some of the other items that we're working on at public safety, that we're going to ensure that the bond does not go to max. I would like to hope that going to a one vendor, if it's possible, we will recognize some savings there and leverage some of our buying abilities and help save the city money in the long run. So that's why this resolution's here. I'm 100% behind it. Obviously, my name is on the bottom of it. And I want everyone to understand, all of our citizens to understand, we understand, I can't speak for all, I understand that this is not the way to buy fire equipment. However, we're really behind the 8 ball here. We need to do something, and we need to do it now. So we have to bite this bullet and get our fire departments up. Thank you.
Yes, Alderwoman Philbrick.
I also will be supporting this as a member of the Public Safety Committee. I agree with President Pro Tem Nash. This is not the way to do business. Unfortunately, we are trying to right a wrong. Although it's on page 2, it is not designated in the specs. I think it's important that we articulate to those departments, and I say this, if the shoe fits, wear it. All apparatus belongs to the city of Norwich. Consequently, when I see a vehicle go by, I want to see City of Norwich. You can put what you want on the bottom. As I said, if the shoe fits, wear it. But this equipment belongs to the City of Norwich. That is not specific only to the fire department. There are many city vehicles that do not say City of Norwich on them. But that's what we will address that at a different date. But tonight, I think we need to articulate to the people purchasing the trucks that it will clearly state City of Norwich. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
I too would like to express my support of this resolution. Clearly, my name is on it. I wouldn't support it otherwise. But I would also like to say, in response to Mr. Crabb, I thank you for noticing, and for everyone who's noticed, that this represents a new normal. It represents a new normal of cooperation on this council, among all the stakeholders, including all of our fire chiefs, and all of our public safety complex within the city are involved in this conversation, as is our public works and the people who are going to be responsible for maintaining these vehicles. So I'm pleased to be part of this. I'm pleased to be supporting this, but also I present this to you, to the community, as the way that this council intends to do business when we spend your money. Thank you.
Yes.
I also support this resolution. I think that this is having a centralized process is the best way to ensure that we don't have any overruns. And I also appreciate the specification guidelines that was put together by the Public Works Fleet Maintenance Division, because this will lead to additional standardization and cost savings. And thank you for the people who worked on this.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Certainly, Alderman Burnham.
No, I think this is important as a unified council to show that we support one another and are working together in order to work in the best interest of the citizens. And I too support this resolution, especially in the vein that it is a transparent and unified process, as Alderman this guy Browning mentioned. I just had one quick question, and I did have it underlined here. On the bottom, the city shall seek other qualified assistance to help make a final decision. What is it specifically, just from my knowledge, what does that mean, other qualified assistance to help make final decisions?
President Pro Tem Nash.
At this point, we're trying to keep that open because when an issue arises, we don't know exactly what specialists we want to use. If we want to use the fleet maintenance, if we want to use a chief maybe from another department to give us an evaluation, like a peer review for it, or maybe go to an outside consultant. So we wanted to keep that open only because we wanted to make sure what specific issue we might need to address and whose best expertise it would be to make a recommendation to us.
Thank you. Just not on the Public Safety Committee, so I'm getting educated.
Yes.
And I would just like to add to that that decision as to who we should bring in would also be a collaborative effort between the members of the Public Safety Committee, the City Manager's Office, and anyone who would have value or bring value to the conversation.
Thank you. For brevity, I will simply say I will be supporting this. We're able to do this because of the blessings of the voters. In November, they gave their support to this bond. Pretty overwhelmingly, I want to add, but almost 2 to 1. They clearly wanted us to invest in public safety and also protect the lives of the people providing that service. One of the things I should like to note, and I'll end on this, is that when this is all completed, we'll actually have less vehicles in operation in the city because we're replacing 6 vehicles with 5. And those that are being taken offline are not going to be kept as spares. I want to make note of that. They're going to be taken out completely from our service and our costs. Any other comment? I see none. All those in favor of the resolution? It's unanimous. The vote is 6-0.
Number 2, relative to reappointments as regular members of the Harbor Management Commission.
Entertain a motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Philbrick, is there a second? Alderman DeLucia, is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, for the benefit of the public, the two persons being appointed are Zachariah Stover and Mark Zacuzo. All those in favor of the resolution? Unanimous, 6-0.
Number 3, relative to City Manager Salamone being authorized, empowered, and directed to execute and deliver for the Norwich Harbor Management Commission the assistant agreement with the State of Connecticut, acting by the Connecticut Port Authority.
Motion to bring it forward, please. President Pro Tem Nash, second. Alderwoman Philbrick. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Philbrick?
I believe this is a matching grant, so my question is, can you verify that for me? And what will be the funding source of the matching $7,500?
I believe that it is a matching grant, and I believe that we had it budgeted
It's in the capital.
in the capital.
It is in the capital
Yes.
plan? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there further discussion or question? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Vote is 6-0. 4, please.
Relative to enter into a development agreement for property located at 19 North Cliff Street.
Motion to bring it forward, please. President Pro Tem Nash. Alderman DeLucia, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. The vote is 6-0.
New business ordinance. Number 1, an ordinance to amend portions of ordinance number 1762, codified as section 2-23, Norwich ratepayer representative to CMEC, CEMEC.
Waive the reading of the full text. I entertain a motion then to schedule this for a public hearing for the second reading.
I make such a motion to have it read into the record, excuse me, not to waive the reading of it, and to set it down for a public hearing.
Next council meeting is February 5th. You in
Okay.
agreement with that?
Yes.
Is there a second? Alderwoman Burnham? All those in favor? Alderman Burnham, Browning, DeLucia, Nash, Mayor Nystrom opposed. Alderwoman Philbrick. Motion is scheduled. Vote is 5-1. Yeah, I will. Just for the record, Alderwoman Stacy Gould is not here this evening. She's out of state. And in her absence, would anyone like to, President Pro Tem Nash, make a motion?
To adjourn?
Thank you. Is there a
Sorry.
second?
Second.
Alderman Browning. All those in favor? Unanimous. The vote is 6-0.
if you don't sit there and self-reflect and tell yourself,